Welcome into Becoming Influential, a show where we are highlighting some of the best creators and content creators in the country that are really building communities and turning their passions into powerful platforms. I'm so excited to welcome in a woman who creates a wonderful account where she is mastering the art of healthy, balanced, enjoyable, delicious food. You don't want to miss this because for me personally, I've already dug through her page, and so I kind of have a preview of this conversation to come. But if you're someone like me who's a big foodie, your whole algorithm is just full of recipes and things that you have bookmarked and saved. This is Ashlea Carver, the owner of All the Healthy Things. Ashlea, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Even better now that you are on here. I'm so excited to, hear about your journey. All we see when we go to your page, All the Healthy Things, we're seeing that perfectly curated plate. But we know there's a lot of history and a lot of stories behind that we don't already know. But how did you get to that? What was your very first recipe? What was behind the scenes before you hit post on your very first post on your page?
Yes, I started as a lawyer actually. I had graduated from law school in 2016 and got my first job out of law school after passing the bar. And I was working a 9 to 5 and I hated it. I really was not enjoying my work and I missed having some sort of creative outlet. And so I decided to look into blogging and experiment with blogging and what that was all about. And I quickly learned a lot, and I learned that there were these things called food blogs. And I have loved to cook my entire life. And so it just kind of seemed like a natural fit to, start a food blog as a way to share recipes online with friends and family and just kind of get back in the kitchen and cook and embrace that part of my life. And so I shared the first recipe I ever shared was for a baked meatball recipe that I just kind of like whipped up in my kitchen and posted online. And I actually just posted the photos like on Instagram, and people were like, "Hey, what's the recipe? What's the recipe?" And so then I typed it up and put it on a website to share with people, and the rest is kind of history. I just didn't stop sharing food from that point on.
See, this is my favorite part of becoming influential because everyone has such a unique story to how they started creating content and created their pages. Like, literally, I do not know you at all. I'm getting to know you just like our viewers are getting to know you. And I would have never guessed, like, lawyer turned food content creator. Like, that is just incredible. Like, are you still a lawyer now, or kind of have you shifted fully to full time content creation?
So I went full time with All the Healthy Things in 2019. So I don't practice anymore, and I practiced for about a year and a half before I kind of switched career directions and just did some kind of like random jobs, like just trying something new. Wasn't really feeling the law anymore, and so I was like, well, I'll just go in this different direction, and started working like at a small customer service company, and did work there. And it was like a creative company and tried that out before I went full time with All the Healthy Things. But I quickly realized like what I really wanted to do was work for myself and be an entrepreneur. And so All the Healthy Things was my way of getting to, that phase of my life. And I haven't looked back since.
So, in addition to having your social media accounts, you said you also have a blog? So, like, do you have your own website too?
Yes. So the main part of my business is actually the website. It's allthehealthythings.com. That's where everything lives. It's kind of like All the Healthy Things HQ, or the hub of my business. It's where all my recipes live. It's where information about like myself, like what I do, all of it is, that is kind of my baby. That's the website. And then everything else is kind of an extension of that website. So Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of the social content, the content creation that you think of when you think of social media is all an extension of that online hub, that website.
What do you hope your website and your social media accounts solve? Like, what problem do you hope that your accounts have the answer to?
I'm always trying to help people figure out what to make for dinner. That is like my core like pain point that I'm trying to help people with. When people are like, I don't know what to make for dinner, I don't know what to plan for my menu this week. What are we eating this week? My goal is to have something on that website that you can easily make quickly without a ton of ingredients that won't cost you a ton and that tastes great every single time.
So, period. Because if my mom, I'm going to send this clip right there to my mom because when I tell you, it'll be 9 o'clock in the morning and I'll call her and I'll be like, what's for dinner tonight? She's like, can I eat breakfast first? I'm like, no, I need to know what's for dinner tonight. Like I have to prepare like how much I eat, what I eat to prepare for dinner. Like my brother and I both do this. We'll be like, what are we eating for dinner tonight? Like I wouldn't be surprised if
Yes.
I get off here right now and there's in a text in our group chat, dinner question mark? Like I don't play about dinner. Like
Yeah.
so I'm glad that you said that because we need more people like you. Because
Yes.
I honestly rely on TikTok for a lot
Mm.
of recipes and different things for dinner because you just get tired of it. And
Yeah.
so your family is so lucky to have you that, especially around Thanksgiving and the holidays, they can just lean on you for all the recipes, right?
Yes, I think so too. I think they're I appreciate
I
that.
I love it. And how did you decide? So you were trying to help us find recipes and make things easier for us that we enjoy. How did you narrow down your niche to be healthy and balanced? Because a lot of people have food pages, but yours is kind of like the one that I see that's like it's healthy, it's balanced, it's good, and you also have sweet treats on there too. So how did you narrow it down to that being your focus?
When I first started the blog, I had actually kind of during law school really reignited my passion for cooking, and the passion for making meals with easy and accessible ingredients. I think, like a lot of women, you spend teenage years or early 20s spent in like the diet culture cycle of trying to eat as less as possible, like the few amount of calories as possible, basically to get to some end result. And when you do that, you don't really get to enjoy cooking in the same way when you're just focused on making this like a small meal or a small amount of calories. You're not really focused on how can I make this meal delicious and use an abundance of produce and abundance of different grains, and always focused on restriction. But in my early 20s, I really took that and flipped it and said, hey, I'm going to focus on not just calories. I'm going to focus on like eating foods that make me feel really good, that I enjoy, a well balanced plate of fruits and vegetables and meats and, different grains, and just trying to really incorporate as much as possible into my diet instead of taking things out. So when I started the blog, that was where my mind was. It
Mm-hmm.
was really focused on how can I, eat meals that taste great, but that also leave me feeling really good. And then over time, it's just really evolved into more of that kind of mindset of how can I fit as many really good things in a meal as possible instead of trying to focus on what I'm taking out. And that's the balance part, right? Like, I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
just focus on making this 100 calories. I want to make sure that I'm eating a well balanced meal with that fits all, my nutrient goals and that also tastes really good. And then
Period.
at the end of the meal, I'm left feeling really good too.
Yeah, I love that. Like you wanna like I feel like I went through that like for maybe the past like 4 or 5 months where like I was trying to make a change in my diet, but not trying to like diet and take away all the things that I really enjoy,
Yeah.
but finding balance. So I love that you just like described exactly what I was going through, and we're not the only people going through that.
Hmm.
And that's what makes your page so relatable, which I feel like with being an influencer or a content creator is so important, is finding people to follow that are relatable and not so far to touch or reach that you're like, I can't even realistically follow them.
Yeah, I agree. I think finding people that you can relate to is really important, and it can help you on whatever journey that you're currently on. I
Mm-hmm.
know that when that was what I was doing, was trying to find people that I thought were thinking similar to me. And, oh, like what are they cooking? What are they eating? Like how are they making this work? And over time as well, I've tried to be that for other people and use my content as kind of a beacon to show other people that you don't just have to take out everything that you love, and that honestly the most healthy thing that you can do for yourself is to enjoy food
Mm.
and to really prioritize it in your life as something that doesn't just provide fuel, but we make so many memories. We were talking about the holidays, like Thanksgiving and Christmas are all about these, meals that we eat. And if we're just focused on what we can take away and, trying to diet and restrict, we're going to miss out on some of the memories that we could be making with the people that we love. And so I think it's very nuanced. It takes a little bit more work than just white or black, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, don't eat this, eat that. But I think at the end, we're all like, I'm much more grateful that I have a more nuanced view on nutrition and food now than I did when I was like 18.
We're grateful for you and all of the information that you've shared with us so far. We've got more on the way with Ashley coming right after the break. And we're back on Becoming Influential. We've got Ashley here. She runs all the healthy things. She also has a blog that she's talked about. If you missed the beginning, please make sure to go back and watch it too, because I will be going to the blog for all the details on all the recipes and all the things, because you can never have too many dinner ideas, as we've talked about. We're always trying to find out what we're eating for dinner, or at least I am. But Ashley, now I kind of want to get into the nitty gritty of your content creation. So can you walk us through what it's like from when you draft your recipe idea all the way to when you're hitting post?
Yeah, sure. So it starts with just like an idea, like you said, like, hey, what is something that I want to make? Those ideas can come from eating out, going, out to dinner with friends and family, and just, oh, this is really cool. I'd love to make this in my own way, in my own version. So that's where it starts. And then I have to get in the kitchen and test. And that's the thing about, being a recipe developer, is that I have to test these recipes to make sure that they actually turn out well, so that when other people are making them, they turn out well for them, which is something that AI cannot do. That's why it's so important to create real people, real creators that are testing their recipes. And so I get in the kitchen and my recipes are tested at least 3 to 4 times
Wow.
each, potentially more. I'm making them, and then I also hire out contractors to help me with photography. So they're making my recipes as well. So there's an extra layer of protection to make sure that those are turning out in some completely different kitchen, in a different part of the country. I have recipe photographers that I work with that are making them. And then once the recipe is photographed,
Mm-hmm.
it goes up on my website, and I have to write a full blog post all about that recipe. And in those blog posts are the most helpful information, tips and tricks about how to make the recipe work perfectly, how to store it, how to reheat, substitutions if something doesn't work for you. So that's all in that blog post. And then we talk about marketing. And so that's the content creation side of it. As well as making sure that I'm telling people about this really great recipe that I just put on my website. And I primarily use Instagram and Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to share those recipes, whether it's in the form of like pictures, or there's video sometimes associated with it, like I'm making a recipe myself, or I'm getting the recipe actually made into a video by a videographer. And so all of that has to happen behind the scenes before it actually goes online and onto social media so that people can know about it. So it's probably about like a 1 to 2 month process, honestly, for one recipe. I start working ahead, and then by the time that recipe is actually shared with the world, it's probably been about 2 months of testing and photographing and all the things.
I have so many questions. Like
Yes.
like just so many questions. Like this process, so efficient. Like it's like elaborate, but just very efficient down to the T. When you said you hire out contractors to like photograph and you try the recipe and then you make the recipe multiple times, like I was not expecting that. Like that is incredible. Like that's the type of stuff like people want to hear again, because they want to know like you're not just making this food and showing it to us on social media, but you've tried it, and not just once, but multiple times to perfect it and make sure that like the product that you're putting out is something that your viewers can also enjoy themselves. So
Yes.
A plus on like I was like, she really is over here doing like a whole thing for us, and I appreciate that, all that work you're putting in. So now, because you share all that with us, what is the most difficult part? Is it the logistics of, figuring out what you're going to make, writing down the recipe, hiring the contractors, like kind of like the admin type of business work? Or is it the cooking, or is it the editing, and, post production work that's the most difficult?
It depends on the recipe. For some recipes, the testing process is really laborious because you just have to really work until it gets perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So some things are easier than others, like, baking recipes can take a lot of time to really develop. But then there's also some savory recipes that I'm just like, that is not quite right. And so I can spend a good amount of time testing them and tweaking and testing different variations and methods and strategies to make sure it's just right. So for those recipes, that can really be the hardest part. But for the easier recipes that I feel like are things that are a little bit easier for me to test and create. The marketing aspect of it can actually be the hardest part because there's so many platforms now where
Hmm.
you have to put your content. So it's not good enough to just post on Instagram. You have to post on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and Pinterest. And it's not hard, but it
Hmm.
is tedious. And it's like that admin stuff you mentioned, just making sure those recipes are out in the universe can take a lot more time than you would think.
Wow. Like, and this is why I see a lot of social media and content creators like quit their full time job and do this full time because it's like, if you're going to commit to it, like, it does take as much time as a full time job, if not more. So, wow. Thank you for just like pulling back the curtain and the filter to tell us all of this because this show is like one, not just about learning about you, but also inspiring other people who may have that passion or dream inside of them to do their niche, whatever it is. And so, thank you for sharing all of the good and the bad with us, which kind of brings me to my next question. Like, have you ever had a recipe fail or may not turn out the way you thought it would, and then you had to like pivot to something else?
Yes. So I've been working on a skillet lasagna for the last like 2 years, and I just cannot get it how I want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still working on it. And so I've had to pivot to other recipes, which is a big part of why I'm always testing multiple recipes at once. I'm never just working on one recipe. I'm always having different ideas. I'm planning for months ahead because you never know that you can have this like great idea and think it's going to turn out perfectly, and maybe it should, and you get in the kitchen and it does not work. And so I'm always thinking about different recipes to keep in my back pocket to try out, and testing multiple things at once because you just never know.
See, like this is like the type A personality that we all need. We all need. This might be like type A plus that we all need. I love it. But now
I love it.
I keep going back to like my initial question of when I asked you like run me through from start to finish, because another thing that stuck out to me in your answer when you were breaking it all down was the time it takes to do one recipe. And so with that being said, what's your posting strategy? Because if it takes 1 to 2 months maybe for a full, from the start of the recipe to the post production, how are you creating enough content to keep posting on social media?
So we work ahead.
Okay.
Everything is 2 months ahead for the most part. Ideas are, 3 to 4 months ahead. I planned out all of 2026's recipe ideas at the beginning of December. So it's a constant juggling act of making sure you're working on things currently and also planning ahead. And that's how we stay able to post content consistently, is by really working ahead with ideas and getting, things out of the kitchen, and into photographers and all of that. And so my posting strategy is to really take the content that I have for a recipe, and schedule it out over the course of a month to 3 months of like where that content is going to live, how it needs to be repurposed if at all, and kind of think through like what's the game plan with this? How are we want to share it with others? How can we switch it up a little bit to share it again? But yeah, it's a lot of working ahead so that you're never really focused on, oh, that particular day creating something. We're always focused on creating now for the future.
Oh, incredible. We love a planner. We love people who are proactive. When you said you already have 2026 planned out, I'm like, wow, because I was just looking at this one meme and it was like me trying to rebrand for 2026 and the girl was like in shambles. So, shout out to you. You need to make a meme for that. Your 2026 planning already being done. You need to make
Done.
the meme because that's crazy. Um, was it 2019 you said when you switched full time to doing this?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so you started in 2019 doing this full time. When was that moment that you realized, either that moment or what year did you finally realize I'm really making a difference in people's lives by this page?
Wow. That is crazy. That's a really great question because I don't think I've ever actually sat and thought with, this is the moment that I think I'm really making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I think that has been little moments along the way. I don't ever think there was a big moment. I think I'm still to this day, I'll get reviews or messages and DMs from people saying, like, I love this recipe. I made it with my, kids for the last like 5 years. It's their favorite. And now, like, my son is going off to college and he's making it in his dorm room. And it's his favorite recipe that we used to make all the time. Like, I get messages like that. And I think it's those little moments along the way that help remind me, like, wow, like, people are taking recipes that I've created and I love and making them in their homes and sharing them with the people that they love. And who's to say that that kid who's making it in his college dorm room or whatever is now gonna share that with his kids. It keeps going and going. That's what I love about recipes and food. They are tied to so much more than just like ingredients. But yeah, it's been little moments along the way that have kind of reassured me that wow, I'm making a difference and I'm helping people in there every day.
That was so touching. Like, thank you for sharing that with me. I literally was like, now I'm like, can I go home and make some with my family and make some memories? I love it. I love it. Okay, we are gonna take one more break and come right back and pick your brain because you are, for what I say, the expert on all the balanced eating and enjoyable balanced eating. So I have some questions for you and I want your thoughts. So stay tuned. We'll be back with more after the break. And we're back on Becoming Influential, and as you can see from the title below, it's time for Rapid Fire, where I'm going to get Ashley's opinion on a couple of things, because she is all the healthy things, and we always have all these health trends and things pop up on social media. One of them was popular for a while, things like detox teas and tummy teas and keto diets and different things like that. We're going to put all these in that one category. What are your opinion on that? What is your opinion on those type of trends, and what's the alternative that people can grab from your page?
I'm a big no to the detox teas, the restrictive diets, all of that. I think your body can detox on its own just fine. And
Period.
I think one of the best ways to help support that is by eating lots of fruits and vegetables, and just feeding it things that, like, again, it make you feel good. I think the alternative there is to focus on balance. And again, fruits, veggies, proteins, grains. Like, I know it's boring, but those things are exactly what I feel like we need. And just to kind of focus on the basics instead of trying to restrict. And when in doubt, talk to a dietitian, talk to a nutritionist, talk to your doctor, someone that you trust if you have questions. But I like stay off the detox teas and the extreme diets on social media.
I think I love that you bring that up because there are great people, like all the healthy things on social media that you can follow, like have great recipes and stuff. But then there's also going to be things that like kind of are just taking your money. I feel like there's so many ads and like branded content now that you really got to do your research. Like you said, talk to your dietitian, talk to your nutritionist, talk to your doctor before taking it, because there are other
Yeah.
alternatives like your page that can teach you how to be enjoying your food, but in a healthy way. So thank you
Yes.
for that.
Of course.
Next, it's kind of, this is a me problem, but I'm a big viral food trend person, which is why people like you are my favorite to bring on this show, because it's your recipes that are being posted that I'm going home and making for my family. I'm curious, what are you seeing on your feed that you've tried outside of your own recipes? Like for me, lasagna soup, I've made it. I made a beef stew last night. The lobster pasta from Trader Joe's is a favorite now in my household. But like, are there anything that's popping up on your page that you're like, bookmark, save, I want to make this, I want to try this?
Everything has been protein, protein, protein
Oh.
this year. And so it's been like high protein recipes a lot. And I at first was kind of like, oh, maybe this is overkill, lots of like cottage cheese and all that. But I experimented a lot this year with cottage cheese and incorporating it in different recipes. I have a cottage cheese pancake recipe on my site
Mm.
that is so good. And it has way more protein than like, your average pancakes. A cottage cheese dip, which is like a ranch dip for like veggies, which is actually really good. So there's a couple of things like that where I was like, I don't know about this. But then once I got in the kitchen and started experimenting, I was like, this is actually delicious. And it's an easy, great way to get in just a little bit more protein into your diet, which I think a lot of people are focused on right now.
Okay, I'm sold. I'm not a cottage cheese person, but what you brought up has popped up on my algorithm where I've seen people add it into either like their tacos, which I do make tacos religiously every single week. I've also seen people add them into their eggs, like when they're whipping
Yes.
them up instead of milk, and they've added more protein that way. So I think it's just the thought of cottage cheese and looking at cottage cheese that's really like has prevented me from trying it this far. But I'm gonna have to try it now. You've
You
got me
got to give it
sold.
a try.
You've got
Give
me
it a chance.
sold. I'll give it a chance. I'll give it a try. At least I can say I did it. As you can see, I'm not someone to like take risks or take chances, but I'll add that to my New Year's resolution for 2026. Ashley, thank you so much for your time, all the healthy things. I am just so excited for what 2026 has in store for you, considering you've already planned everything out. So I know it's going to be great. And for everyone watching, if you're not already following her, if you're not already visiting her site from your cell phone, you better do it. Ashlea, tell us where they can find you, from your website to your TikTok, Instagram, etc.
allthehealthythings.com for all of my recipes. They are free and ready for you to make. And then you can find me on social media at All the Healthy Things on every single platform.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you all for watching. We will see you next time.